The Tomb of Horrors is a dungeon crawl that was born in Gary Gygax's home campaign and later introduced to the world in 1975. It's a very infamous adventure with very few people making it all the way to the end. And when the Tales of the Yawning Portal was released back in 2017, an updated version of the adventure was found within its pages. So join me as we have a look at this module and we go beyond the screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Screen. I am your humble host, Tim, and today we'll be taking a look at the Tomb of Horrors. The Tomb of Horrors, much like all the early adventures written by Gary Gygax, is just a fairly standard dungeon crawl, but it's one that's designed to literally to be unfair. A lot of people, when running through this campaign for the first time or reading it, just say, "Oh, this is no fun. It's unfair." But that is kind of the point. The idea behind this campaign, at least from what I've been able to glean through reading it and running it myself, is that this is a campaign to throw at your party if you have those one or two players that think that their characters are completely and totally unbeatable. And this is literally a way just to slap them down and show them that they're not as good as what they think they are. It's almost a Dungeon Master's Revenge campaign. But that's not to say that it can't be an entertaining adventure to run. It's not just about revenge and being antagonistic as the DM. But let's dive in to the introduction and see what the book has to say for itself. In the far reaches of the world, under a lost and lonely hill, lies the sinister Tomb of Horrors. This labyrinthine crypt is filled with terrible traps, strange and ferocious monsters, rich and magical treasures, and somewhere within rests the Demi-Lich. The legend of the tomb is an old story with many parts, some of which may be lost or obscured. Characters attempting to glean special information by consulting sages or through legend lore spells may still have difficulty obtaining as much background as they desire, for the scraps of information thus gained are often minimal and mystical. Somewhere, under a lost and lonely hill of grim and foreboding aspect, lies a labyrinthine crypt. It is filled with terrible traps, and not a few strange and ferocious monsters to slay the unwary. It is filled with rich treasures, both precious and magical, but in addition to the aforementioned guardians, there is said to be a Demi-Lich who still wards his final haunt. Be warned that tales have it that this being, called a Sirak, possesses powers that make him nearly undefeatable. All accounts conclude that it is quite unlikely any explorers will find the chamber where the Demi-Lich lingers, for the passages and the rooms of the tomb are fraught with traps, poison gas, and magical protections. Furthermore, the Demi-Lich is so well hidden his lair that even those who avoid the pitfalls will not be likely to locate their true goal. Only large and well-prepared parties of the bravest and strongest should even consider the attempt. And, if such a group does locate the tomb, they must be prepared to fail. Any expedition must have magical protections and weapons, and must be equipped with every sort of device possible to ensure survival. Please be advised, there are spoilers ahead. You have been warned. So, as you can see, it is a very basic plot line. You're just jumping into this dungeon trying to find the treasure, and beware, there's a lich inside, and don't expect to get out. As a few of you have probably worked out or know by now, if you have been in Dungeons & Dragons fandom for any length of time, the Tomb of Horrors is the predecessor to the Tomb of Annihilation. The Tomb of Annihilation is a much larger campaign, which ends with the party running into what's known as the Tomb of the Nine Gods, which is essentially the much larger multi-leveled version to this dungeon. Because if you look at the Tomb of Horrors map, let's get the page over here, it's just a single page, right? So it's not that massive. It is complicated, to get through with a lot of secret passages. But when it comes to this dungeon and the Tomb of Annihilation, I would stress that probably the Tomb of Annihilation is somewhat more difficult to get through because of the time involved and just the number of traps, whereas the Tomb of Horrors doesn't have as many traps, but those that it has are very unfair, if that makes sense. The other interesting thing is actually that this is almost two dungeons built into one, because you've got the first section of the tomb with a whole bunch of threats, but it also leads to what is known as the false reliquary, or the false treasury. And the treasure that's in this place is genuine treasure. If the party finds their way there, they'll get incredibly, incredibly rich. But there's actually a secret door which leads to the actual tomb and the actual reliquary. So it almost gives you an easy out if your party doesn't want to have to go all the way. They're just looking to get, you know, a get rich quick scheme, or a get rich quick dungeon, and they manage to make it through the first section. Then they can leave and have a whole bunch of treasure and be very, very happy with that. But if they want to go all the way and they find the secret entrance, well, then doom will fall upon them. Because this has just a hell of a lot of instant death traps and, yeah, just a lot of really, really nasty stuff. There's even a section in here where if you go into the door, you're dead. Because once you walk into the room, as soon as you try to leave it, you just get crushed by a steamroller, and there's actually no saving throws for getting out of it. So it's literally, you go in there, you die. So, depending on how you want to run this campaign, you can be malicious and just, you know, enjoy all the instant death traps that there are. But if you are wanting to run this as a more fair adventure, I would highly recommend checking out XP to Level 3. I'll put a link in the description. He actually went through and fixed the Tomb of Horrors to actually make it a fair campaign for his players. So definitely check that out. It's well worth the check. But really, I think that the whole point, like I said before, the whole point of this campaign is to be unfair. It's meant to be a gauntlet challenge to literally grab yourself a stack of level 20 characters, maybe even 2 or 3 apiece, and just keep going in until you eventually get through it. And learn from your mistakes as you go through. Almost like running it like a video game. So once you get to a certain point, you know what's ahead. Come in with your new character, complete the next bits and pieces, and then make your way forth. And just run it as a challenge to see how long it takes you to actually get through it. It's almost like a memory test. Actually, one of the descriptions that they use in this book, or one of the original descriptions of the Tomb of Horrors, is that it's the thinking man's dungeon. And to a point, I would say that is true, but it's kind of the thinking man that's thinking, okay, I'm going to go in with foreknowledge, because there's really no way to deal with a lot of these puzzles without knowing ahead of time how to actually get through them. Like, for example, the first puzzle that you come across is the Crimson Path, or the Serpent's Trail. Let me just find how it's described here. So you find a poem or a series of hints given to you by a Sirak, and it reads, "A Sirak congratulates you on your powers of observation. So make of this whatever you wish, for you will be mine in the end no matter what. Go back to the Tormentor, or go through the Arch and the second great hall you'll discover. Shun green if you can, but night's good color is for those of great valor. If shades of red stand for blood, the wise will not need a sacrifice aught but a loop of magical metal. You're well along your march. 2 pits along the way will be found to lead to Fortune's fall, so check the wall. These keys and those are most important of all, and beware of trembling hands and what will maul. If you find the false you find the true, and into the coloured hall you'll come, and there the throne that keys and keyed. The iron men of visage grim do more than meets the viewer's eye. You've left and found my tomb, and now your souls will die. So the first bit is there, the first section here is that the hall you come into, it's all green, but there is a single red path through the center of it. And so as it says here, shun green if you can. So you don't want to step on the green. So you think, okay, I'm going to step on the red. But if you actually follow the red path right towards the end of it, one of the tiles on the red path has a pit trap in it. And so you'll lose regardless. So Acererak really doesn't want you to get to the end of his tomb. He's literally just fucking with you. And that's what all the puzzles in this tomb are like. You think, haha, I've solved the problem. It's like, no, you have not solved the puzzle, because it's an unfair challenge. And that's literally what this whole thing is like, is that every single puzzle you think you'll solve the riddle of, you won't. You can't. It's not designed for you to win. It's quite literally the... actually, no. Do you know the best way to describe the Tomb of Horrors? The Tomb of Horrors is Dungeons & Dragons Kobayashi Maru. And so, I'm actually going to leave that there. So, if anyone is familiar with the Kobayashi Maru, it is a Star Trek reference. The Kobayashi Maru is a test that all captains have to face. There is a ship called the Kobayashi Maru that has 200 refugees on it, but it is over a border in enemy territory. So if you go across the border to rescue these people, you break the treaty and war is declared. All right. If the moment that you go across, you are attacked by the enemy, and they will overwhelm you and you will die. If you don't go over, then you are leaving the people, the refugees, to their death, and you lose. There's no way to come out of the situation ahead. It's a test of character. It's a test to see how you handle the situation. And honestly, that's how I think the Tomb of Horrors actually works. It isn't a campaign that you can win, but it is a campaign that you play in order to see how you deal with these kind of problems. Whether you get incredibly angry, whether you just want to smash things. It's kind of that kind of test, I think. That's interesting. I never actually really thought of it that way. I only just thought of that while we were going through here. So, yeah. Like I said, there isn't a great deal to go through with this in terms of the review, just to say that it is just very, very unfair. But certainly a dungeon crawl that I think everyone should visit at least one point in their Dungeons & Dragons career. So, anyway, if you want to have a look at the current update to the Tomb of Horrors, it is in the Tales of the Yawning Portal, which you should be able to pick up literally anywhere. It's been out for like 4 years now. And if you want to check out the more fair variant, the updated variant by XP to level 3, the link will be in the description. So, thank you all very much for watching. I know this wasn't much of a review, but really when it comes to this this dungeon crawl, there really isn't much to say, apart from my opinion, really. So yeah. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. I have been your humble host, Tim, and be sure to come back for more Tales Beyond the Screen. Bye!